welcome. Take it up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Dan Craig, who is the Director of Digital Customer Experience at Khoros. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks, Jessica. Lovely to be here.
I like what you guys do. You know, you have this platform that takes on that digital customer experience with community building and also social media management. It's encompassing three big areas. Tell us what's so innovative and what are some of the trends you're seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah, of course. Well, as you said, Chorus helps some of the largest and biggest brands on the planet connect with their customers throughout their entire journey to help them create customers for life. And I think it's broadly accepted now that we're pretty far beyond, as a market, simple digital transactions, right? If you're a serious brand, you're already at digital relationships, your services and sales motions are blurred, you're figuring out how to do machines and humans and make them merge together. You know, you're moving to truly digital first, and that's a really hard thing to do. And there are a mountain of challenges hidden behind doing that. How am I going to listen deeply across all of my digital channels to understand what my customers need? How will I reach out, whether that's broadly through social or directly to individuals, or even through my messaging and chat channels? And then I've got to think about how am I going to deliver self-service, connection to agents, build a digital community around that work. And of course, now it's 2020. So you know you're going to be asked by everybody how you're planning to use AI and machine learning to scale all of that. And it's I think, a really tough deal for a lot of the companies that we work with. It's a tough deal for Chorus sometimes to execute on as well. Customer expectations are very high, but most brands are not always managing to deliver because it's difficult. So those are really the areas where Chorus has been stepping in for over a decade now to partner with brands to help them grow their revenue, reduce their costs, protect their brand through the use of our engagement platform. So it's an exciting place to be, an interesting time. And I consider myself fortunate to be doing what I'm doing in that kind of organization. So yeah, there are certainly a heap of trends. You know, customer experience, digital service, they are hot topics while COVID is on. But I think one of the biggest things is the complexity of things that people have to deal with. Right? Most people now will talk about and understand the need to move to an omni-channel digital service. And so what they're saying is, hey, all of these channels are changing all the time, so we need you to innovate. I've also got 5,000 different systems, so I need whatever new things I'm going to buy to integrate with all of them, right? I've got this big technology stack that I somehow need to piece together. But I'm in a time in the market where I'm very price sensitive. So how are you going to help me stitch all of this service together, create an incredible customer experience, and do it at a price that makes sense? P.S. The market is now very busy with vendors. So how do I choose what I go with and where I go with? You know, it's a challenge. I saw something this morning from Purdue University that reminded me there are now 5 generations in the market. So everyone talks about the millennials and servicing them, or Gen Z who are now in the marketplace. Well, the reality is, if you're a global brand, you've got to think about your service for traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, all at the same time. And yeah, that is just a huge challenge as they adapt your technologies as well.
Let's talk about the digital customer experience at scale, okay? Because I know that you have this new organization called Customer for Life that is trying to make sure that that relationship stays with you no matter where that person is, what companies they're at, but do it at scale, right? So let's dive into the best practices and tips that you can share, the lessons learned.
Yeah, of course. And I have to say, you know, I'm really fortunate to be working at a time where the appetite to deliver a real relationship through a digital channel at scale is real and is necessary. Right? It's quite rewarding to work in a place where if you're making other people successful, if you're making their lives easier, then you're doing a good job. And so that's very, very rewarding for somebody that wants to do that. But I think there's a number of things that you have to do first. Of course, it starts with your customers and where they are. Um, there are uh, there's a lot of noise in the market about needing to switch on every single channel, and that can be true. If you're smaller, you want to start where your customers are, right? So build your core channels first, whether that's social, whether that's chat, community, email, messaging. The environment that your customer is working in is really critical. If they are walking out in the street when they are interacting with you, then they're probably on a mobile device. The mechanisms that they're going to use are very different versus if they're in their home office or a real office when they get back and they've got a desktop, maybe even two monitors. The mechanisms that they're going to use to interact with you and how they're going to interact are very different. What we've seen at Khoros is it's not just about the environment. We've started to see that the type of question that you have affects the channel that you're going to use. If it's something that may be a little self-promotional, you want to get people behind you, or it's quick and speedy, then messaging, social, very often the ways to go. If it's complex and requires a little bit of thought, then people are deferring either to email or to community channels where they've got the time to be able to type something out to explain what they mean, and then to get thoughtful responses back from people they need. So I think that's the first step is truly understanding who your audience is, what they're going to be asking you, and therefore what channels they're most likely to use. Now, over time, you're going to start putting all of these channels on, and you're going to have social, chat, community, email, messaging, several others as well. And so you're going to need to unify a view for the people behind the scenes that are answering that. It's really hard for somebody to be able to jump from one platform to the next, to the next, to the next. So being able to take all of that communication in and see it and visualize it in one place becomes really, really critical. So, you know, along the way, you're investing in content, you're investing in your user experience as you're getting people between those channels. You're investing in engineering, and I think one of the trends that we're going to see is that success, experience, and service teams are going to have to think like, act like, and recruit like product and marketing teams. You know, truly focusing on the user experience. Marketing teams are very, very good at digital. They've been doing a little while, and so you can borrow a lot of what's out there. You can borrow a lot of what's out there from your product teams to get this right. So you've got your channels, you've got your underlying service. I think that's when you start to think proactive and outbound, right? You think about, if you're just thinking about deflection, you're really only capturing 5% of your customer need. You've got this 95% of latent need, people that have questions that are either giving up before they get to you, or they've only got 2 minutes, so they're thinking, well, maybe I need this now, but I don't necessarily have the time. So that's when your proactive engagement programs, bots, and outreach comes to your customers. And I think the right teams to lead those are the customer teams, because they understand what those people need. So it's a lot of fun. If you get that far and you've got inbound and outbound, you're doing very well. Congrats. You're in probably the top 5 to 10% of companies globally. That's when you start to think about, okay, great, we've now scaled this, but how do we start to automate it? So how do I understand the journey that people are taking across my channels? How do I understand the optimum time to go out and engage with them? Not to sell them something, but to deliver the best possible service. And so it's that sort of inbound, outbound, then moving on to proactive and prescriptive. And that's where you want to be. You know, when you think about your best human relationships and your best friends, the people that give you the best advice, they listen, they understand, they appreciate, they think about it. And then from time to time, they'll reach out and give you proactive advice or send you something that they were thinking of to let you know that they were thinking of you personally. And I think it's that spirit, right? How do you make your machines and process very humanized? And how do you think and how do you get those systems to act as a person to person would, rather than this mysterious entity of a customer, which doesn't exist? You're talking about human relationships. So how can you get the spirit of that? It's never going to be one-to-one, never going to be perfect, but that's the dream.
Dan, I'm going to ask you to be specific here. So, for example, in the multi-touch journey, sometimes, I see a pop-up and it's not relevant or it's not even right timing. So it's kind of annoying. So how do you make that for instance, as a technique where it is relevant, it is very welcoming and appreciated.
Yeah, and I think, again, this goes back to the idea of being very human. If you walk into a room and you say to a person, "Hi, I'm Daniel, let me talk about all the things that I want to talk about," that's annoying and a weird experience, and it's quite obtrusive, and you wouldn't do that in a social situation. But we seem to want to do that because, and I understand, we get very excited about telling people our news or the things that we worked on or this thing that we've just released. But I think that's where it comes down to relevance and, again, understanding your audience. So one of the things that we were able to do at Khoros, we actually use, we call them light boxes or guides inside of our platform. And these are interruptive. They take up a pretty large chunk of your screen, and we're reaching out to tell you something right when you were trying to do something else, which is really anti-service when you think about it. That shouldn't work. But what we've learned over time is we've watched how different roles respond to different messaging. We look at different messaging at different times of day. We know that if we put up a message, let's say, for example, in an analytics part of our platform, that message is going to be very, very highly targeted to the person who is running reports. It could be about a webinar that we're releasing that we know already is relevant to them. And so I think constantly driving relevance, using the data and the signals that you're getting to improve that month on month really helps. And, you know, when we started doing this, we took the same approach. Let's just blast everybody with a message, and everybody hated it. Now, a few years down the line, 78% of the time that somebody sees one of these messages, they're clicking a button that says, yes, this was really helpful, and thanking us for it. And that feeds back into us improving that time and time again. And so we've been really fortunate now to even have customers tweet out to say, wow, you've just told me to do something in this platform because there's a crisis going on either in the world or with my brand. We weren't even thinking about doing that. That was helpful, right? That's service. And so I think when you are getting into somebody's face in a very helpful way, because you understand, truly understand their situation, then the reaction is very different, and it's viewed as a, oh, how did you do that? That was pretty cool. But I think, again, it goes back to listening, and then how do you take just a huge volume of signals and, yes, this helped, and no, this didn't help, and then change, right? If you're collecting the data, but you're just doing the same thing every month, you're never going to get better. So you have to be relentlessly pressured to always get better. And when you think you've hit a bar, suddenly everybody else is doing it, and now that's the expectation. So you just got to be better and better again. It's the same with chat. How many times do we go onto a website and see a big interrupted message of, hi, do you want to chat? Maybe, like, not right now. I've literally been on your site for about half a second, and I don't know, you don't know why I'm here yet. So this is a weird time for you to be sticking your elbow in my ribs. So again, it's about being thoughtful about using data and then using those interrupted channels when it's relevant and useful for the person that you're addressing.
Yeah, and I think it's a big challenge when you look at scaling this kind of operations to try to deliver that customer experience. But sometimes it's very expensive. As you have to keep in mind about the profitability of it. It's just trying to optimize the operations and investments in the customer experience with the actual margins involved.
You do, absolutely. And, you know, let's be clear, these things are complex to do. You've got system integration that you've got to do. You've got to take data, get it into your analytics tool. You've got to get people looking at that and making decisions. If you're at the next level, you're then building your own algorithms to be able to identify those moments to interact. And that's an expensive thing to do today. So you've got to have the volume to warrant that working. You've also got to have the volume of frequency, right? So you can build the most elaborate, incredible outbound campaign or automated campaign, and it's going to be relevant for 2 people in 1 day a year. Probably not worth it for all the money that you'll need to put into it. Similarly, if you're getting hundreds of thousands of inbound questions, and let's say 20 to 30% of those are the same, just to deflect, we're already talking about millions of dollars, but going back to that latent need, you've then got probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in the background that you're not even aware of. So it's becoming easier to paint and to show that model. And of course, what digital allows you to do and what I love is by building something for the reactive, you can repurpose for proactive as well. So if I'm creating an answer that I serve when somebody asks my bot a question, I can choose to proactively push that information in front of somebody. And so that's unusual, right? This combination of push-pull. But yeah, it's not cheap. You have to be ready to commit, and you have to be ready to set that up. And it takes time. You're not just going to have data on day one. You need to build that data. Executives need to let teams have the time to get it wrong, to fail, and then to improve. And that's where a human sometimes beats a machine. A human can read a situation a little bit faster than a machine can. And so that's the other piece. You can't have these systems without a fallback. And so one of the things that we do that's critically important, similarly to if you now go into a supermarket and you have your self-checkout, but you usually now have a couple of people standing around because they know something's going to go wrong and you need a human. You have to do that with your pop-up messages. You have to do that with your chat, with your bots, anything that's automated. Give people an out path to a human, and allow them to engage in the way that they want. And as long as you give them that path out, then you're getting the balance right. So ideally the robots work. When they don't, the humans usually help you out. And so again, developing those systems that help you hand off between bots and humans, and then also hand off from a human to a bot becomes important as well, which again, I'm lucky I get to use Khoros software to help me do some of that. Shameless promotion. But it does make life easier.
Yes, you're drinking your own champagne, which is expected. And I totally agree with you. It's great to have automation tools to give you options, but absolutely there are times when I just want to be talking with a human. Okay, stop, give me all these options to like push this button to go here and go there and get answer. I just want to speak with someone. So I agree with you. And just having the technology to be able to just very smoothly allow the changes in different channels going back and forth, and keeping that whole journey smooth, I think is a winning.
Yeah, and I mean, to just reinforce that point, another example I just thought of, I think sometimes when people are thinking about automation, scale, and content, they're thinking about how do we not have a conversation, right? How do we use this to push people off because it costs me money to talk to people? Whereas I think about it slightly differently. There's a lot of opportunity when you're talking to people that you don't get when you're pushing them away. Right? It's like as people, if we're closed off, we're probably not learning. If we're open and we're having conversations, we're learning a lot more. And so there are ways that you can use your automation to be able to find times to say, hey, I actually think you need a human, like right now. So we've had a couple of instances where we've been able to set up very simple flows that suggest that somebody is struggling with something inside of our product. It could be the way that they are clicking around. It could be that they've been looking for 8 different pieces of content and that we think, I don't think you're finding what you need. And we're using some of our proactive channels, either through bots or through our in-app messaging, to highlight some of the human services that we have. So we'll either prioritize, here's how you can get in contact with our support team. Very occasionally, we have a really incredible team called product coaches who will get on the phone and walk you through how to do something. So the machines are actually looking for opportunities to help connect you to humans. And again, us starting the conversation makes it much easier for us to control that journey and deliver good service. If you're just sitting there being reactive, you never know what's going to happen. You don't know what's coming in. You're just not in control of your business. And that's not a place that we like to be. So yeah, no, thanks. That triggered that piece in my head. So don't forget to promote the humans as well as promote your content.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for being on the show to talk about customer interactions, customer experience, and leveraging those tools out there, the technology to help companies succeed. I appreciate you sharing.
Of course, it's good fun. You can hear that I like to nerd out on it. So if anybody wants to reach out and discuss the topic, I'm open to a chat.
Okay, there you have it. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Dan Craig from Khoros.